I spoke to Michael Kugelman about that. He is Senior Associate for South and Southeast Asia at the Woodrow Wilson Center. Following up on Daniel's reporting, I asked him how the continued violence might impact the $46 billion China-Pakistan economic corridor.
Well, I mean, certainly this is clearly a concern of the Pakistani army. Really one of the first things, one of the first statements from the Pakistani military after this attack is that this terrorist attack was meant to undermine security in a region where security had improved, meaning that you'd have a favorable situation for the China-Pakistan economic corridor. I don't know. I mean, quite frankly, Baluchistan was not exactly stable before this attack happened. And I know that there's a lot of concern among the Pakistanis that building the necessary infrastructure and all the projects in this part of the country would be very difficult. And that's why the Pakistan military has gone all out to ensure that it will be providing sufficient security for those building the projects in this area. I don't think that this one terrorist attack will essentially torpedo the China-Pakistan economic corridor project altogether. I don't think that would be the case at all. And I think it really is unfortunate, quite frankly, that in the aftermath of this horrific terrorist attack where you have dozens of civilians killed, that you know, the Pakistani military will be talking about what this means for a big infrastructure project. I think the focus needs to be on the victims and what happened. But I think that what it does underscore is that this is a huge concern, the China-Pakistan economic corridor. It's a huge concern for the military, and it does not want anything to be done that could undercut or undermine prospects for this huge project from being undertaken.
You mentioned the word clever when you were talking about these terrorists, and given the fact that if this is true, they clearly are quite clever, how do you combat that? If you're the government, if you're the military, how do you go after them? How do you stop them?
Well, I mean, obviously the easy answer is to essentially get them off the streets, and whether that entails major counter-terrorist offensives to kill terrorists, or whether it entails capturing terrorists and essentially getting them off the streets, getting them convicted and put away. Certainly that is one thing that has to be done. And the army, the Pakistani army, has been waging a pretty significant offensive in the tribal area of Pakistan for the last 2 years, which has done a pretty big number on a lot of the anti-state terror groups like the Pakistani Taliban. But the bottom line is that in Pakistan you have an environment that remains so enabling for violent extremism. You have these hardline ideologies that percolate, and they're so powerful because you hear these narratives coming from clerics. They appear in school textbooks. Even a lot of influential media personalities in Pakistan say these horrible things that essentially fuel militancy. And I think that when you want to talk about what Pakistan needs to do about its terrorism problem, you need to go after the underlying ideologies that fuel the violent extremism that in turn provokes militancy and terrorism. And quite frankly, that should not be a job of the Pakistani military. Certainly the military can and should go after the terrorists on the battlefield, but you need the government, you need civil society, you need the country on the whole to deal with this really serious situation of violent extremism.
Michael Kugelman joining us earlier.